So I guess I'll start this conversation about the Pull Espresso Machines, and why why we started doing them and talking about that, like explaining what our process was to bring us to build these machines and why we decided to do what we did.
Well, I think it's also important to point out the timeline of your experience working with espresso machines in general, as far as fixing them and selling different kinds of them, whether they were automatic, super automatic, semi-automatic, and then bringing it back around to something that's completely manual.
Right. Okay,
which
so
is the hand pulled.
So when we started in the coffee business, we started in 1989, and I was building espresso carts, had a manufacturing company doing that. And of course the carts, hand pull machines are a little more, I guess, suited for a cart, because we used to build these carts that would plug into a standard power or have no power. And a hand pull machine you could get in a propane version. So that's why I started with those machines. And I remember back when we sell them, and we sold them throughout the years up until even the last 5 years ago when we finally decided, okay, we're going to really start focusing on building our own. I always noticed that, or I always wondered, I'm like, I'm either crazy or every time I pull a shot on a hand pull machine, it's better, it tastes better, and I think that was my inspiration.
Well, I also think it's important to realize that back then, like in the late 80s, when you saw those carts on the sidewalks in Seattle,
yeah,
they usually had hand pulled because it was easier. But not only that, I think it was supposed to be an experience, like a vending on the sidewalk experience, where you walked up and someone pulled this shot, and it was like a thing.
It was special.
It wasn't press the button and just like flip through the masses. People wanted to wait, and they wanted to stand there and watch the process of what you were doing, and even have a conversation with the person that was doing it.
It was more interaction.
Yeah, and it felt more like what you might experience in Europe.
Right.
If you were going to stand and this person was just pulling a shot and chatting with you, and it wasn't about, I need this super elaborate drink, I need you to press the button, I need you to hurry up and write my name on the cup.
Right.
That wasn't a thing then.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, and then of course electronics started coming into play, and they had to have semi-automatic machines, and they also had super automatic.
But what was the reason for that?
Well, I think that people were thinking, well, technology is going to make this better or quicker or faster.
But why would they need to hurry?
Yeah, well,
I mean, but I'm just saying, if you're just talking about that trend, someone somewhere decided that let's take this old-fashioned way of consuming this product and let's speed it up.
Right.
Or let's make it more efficient.
Make it more consistent.
To me, and I don't know, but I'm just going to make an opinion that I was probably based on trying to make money.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a way to like make more revenue based on the drink.
And I can sell you on the idea that, this is going to be more consistent. Like if you just have to press a button, it's going to be better. And you, as the person that even owns the cart or the cafe, is going to believe, it's got to be more consistent and better because there's electronics involved.
So I need to maximize my profits.
Right.
I'm going to buy this other kind of machine.
Or my supposed consistency. But let's go back to where it really came from, because in 1947 is when they first came out with the first hand pull machines. Before that, they were steam driven, low pressure, only I think 20 psi. And that hand pull machine in 47 increased the pressure up to 140 pounds. So what you're developing is 140 pounds, which then you can actually grind your coffee finer. You can get more flavor out of the coffee for sure. But then in the 60s and 70s, they came out with pump driven machines. And of course, that's the E61s, all these type of machines. And I think that the electronics came in the late 70s. They started coming, or actually late 80s, when they came out electronic machines with push buttons that measured out the exact amount of water, which is really funny and cracks me up, is that hand pull machines deliver an exact amount of water already. They're already volumetric. They call it volumetric or automatic. The automatic delivery of water that forces it through the coffee. So I think that people were drawn to the electronic machines or the push button or the pump machines, I think for two things. One is probably for practicality. They thought, okay, this is going to be better, or it's going to be faster. It's going to be easier. And I'm just, I'm blown away that actually this hasn't been really rediscovered in the industry, because it actually is easier, is more consistent, and makes better coffee. So, and lower maintenance. So those are that was my big turn off on the electronic machines, because we both sold lots of machines, and we sold super automatics, the very best Swiss made super automatics. We've sold the very best electronic machines, push button, and even semi-automatic machines. And I just am not impressed with the reliability.
Well, I think that the whole idea of adding features based on efficiency or trying to make things more consistent was really just a way for the manufacturers to try and feel like they were evolving with technology, because it's really just a giant appliance.
Right.
And they were thinking, let's add this, let's do that, let's put this, let's have a cup counter to tell you how many cups of coffee you've made in X amount of minutes, hours, days, so that then you can decide if you were making enough money during that day. And I think that a lot of the things that they added to the machine was just based on an industry, and maybe not necessarily on the product itself. They were just saying, let's try to make this fit into an industry where people are trying to make money. And they forgot about the fact that this is really just something to make a really good drink.
Well, and then let's not forget also that in Italy, in most of Europe, the coffee roasters would give the machine to the customer. They would give them the machine, or let them borrow the machine, they call it, as long as they use their coffee. So a lot of cup counters and that type of things were integrated into the machines, the electronic cup counters, not to help the actual end user or the cafe owner. It was to help the coffee roaster keep track of, are they cheating? Are they using my machine for free and then buying coffee somewhere else?
Right, but either way, and I agree, either way though, those efforts were being focused on something other than making a good drink.
Right.
It was more, well, how can we improve this, or how can we make sure this, or how can we micromanage that?
Well, it's less expensive. Sorry to interrupt you. It's less expensive to build a machine with a pump and a smaller head, and use solenoids, and use. It's actually less expensive on a mass production. If we're going to mass produce espresso machines, which is what most manufacturers do, is mass produce espresso machines, they're looking to save money on their manufacturing costs, and they can automate everything. Everything can be done CNC, computer robots can build the machine.
But then what goes wrong with that is now we have these things that use and rely on technology.
Right.
And now, as a person who's serviced machines, which is what you did for years and years, or sell the parts to people that
still continue to do.
I think that's when the whole thing starts to change for the person that owns the cafe or is running the business, because now they realize that I didn't just buy this appliance because I want to sell coffee to people. I bought something that now is going to come with a maintenance record.
Right.
And now they don't ask if it makes good coffee. They just ask, how long will it last?
Right.
And now you're just selling something based on reliability rather than, am I making a good drink?
Well, okay, so then let's get back to reliability. Is a very good discussion, because that's the Achilles heel of all electronic machines. So technology, within 5 to 10 years, is touchpads, computers, relays, all the things inside the machine that make that machine work on electronic machines. The manufacturers stop producing those replacement parts, and they're hard to get if you can't even get them. And so, and I always tell people, when they bring me a machine, that even machines we've sold, because we've sold plenty of electronic machines, and they've had the machine more than 5 to 10 years, or 5 to 10 years is kind of the range. I say it's really not worth fixing, because let's say we put a whole bunch of money in this aspect of the machine, and then the computer goes out, which is $1,400, if you can even buy the computer. Because the manufacturers in Italy stopped making the parts after a certain amount of years. And so I always tell people, I say, let's not keep putting money into this. You're probably ready to buy a new machine. So every 5 to 10 years, you're going to have to replace that electronic machine. And when I say electronic machine, a lot of people think I'm talking about this massive, totally automated machine. I'm still talking about a machine that has a touchpad or even a semi-automatic switch. We consider those electronic machines because they still have flow meters. They still have to have a computer. They still have to have solenoids, a pump motor. All these things have to be inside the machine in order to make them work, as opposed to a hand pull machine, which is gaskets. And that's all it is. It's a power switch on and off.
Right.
But I won't say that for all hand pull machines, because I think the problem that we've seen with the hand pull machines that we could get, and the reason why we didn't just sell a bunch of hand pull machines that already exist, is where you're seeing manufacturers that mass produce machines. They take an existing frame, an existing platform that they've mass produced, and they just simply put a hand pulled head on it. Well, they haven't solved the problem. The problem is that they've still got relays and lots of stuff inside there. And I've even seen them with pumps, which is even more ridiculous, because you've kind of gone the other direction. I don't know why you wouldn't put a pump inside of a hand pull machine, but they do, especially the ones with the water containers and reservoirs. So I think that they've gotten away from machines that last a long time. They know the machines only last 5 to 10 years. So they're not worried about the wire harness. They're not worried about the frame material. They're not worried about where they have relays in it and all the extra junk in it. So they're using an existing platform, which is a 5 to 10 year lifespan. I don't think that was our intent. Our intent was to build a 100-year machine, a machine that you could pass down and buy it once. I always say, like, buy your machine once with our pull machines, because you buy them once and you don't have to buy it again.
Right, but now I think that what you're realizing is now I have to take this community of people that have embraced technology and invested a lot of money into technology, and now I need to talk them out of technology.
Yes.
And now I need to explain to them that actually you didn't really need any of that stuff, and really what you should have done is done this thing that's completely old and reliable, and a lot of people aren't willing to receive that information yet.
They're not.
Or they are ready to do it, but at the same time they're not sure about selling that to their user or to the person that's buying coffee from them. They have to now tell people, here's the way people are drinking coffee now. And I think that it has complete integrity either way.
Well, okay, but this is, I think, the biggest thing that people come to me and they always ask you or I, and they say, that looks like it's going to be harder, or it takes skill. And I think the misinformation is the home espresso machine, hand pulled, little tiny machines. Those are totally manual machines. You have to pull it down and push it up, and you're controlling the pressure. Our machines, we use the modern spring levers. You pull it down and you release the handle. The spring is developing the pressure. The spring is consistent. The spring doesn't change. It doesn't get weaker, or it's always consistent, always produces an exact volume of water. So there's a lot of misinformation out there about hand pull machines that way. But let's talk about the romance. So let's go back to why did people make things by hand? Hand pulling espresso. When someone says pull me a shot, they're pushing a button and say pull me a shot, which is funny. People don't even know what it means. But I think that what we've reintroduced to the coffee community is the romance, and I think that's what we're missing. We're missing that make this thing as espresso is especially for you. That's a definition. It means you can actually pull a shot for somebody. And you give them a handmade product. They actually appreciate it. The customer will ask more questions. They actually, every person we've sold or replace it, especially when they replace an electronic machine with a hand pull machine, they just get excited. They go, the customers are now asking questions and want to be more involved in their process.
I think that the people that we are selling them to are then serving it to people in a way where they're trying to recreate the experience themselves.
The experience.
I don't think that you're having much of an experience when you drive up to the drive-thru and they just press the button, hand you the drink, and you drive away.
Yeah.
And that's a different experience, which has its place too.
Right.
But at the same time, I think a person that's going to embrace hand-pulled and see this on a counter and see the person making it is there for a different reason.
Right. So there's the art aspect. So it's more artistic. Obviously, we embrace an artistic aspect of our machines. I felt like it was important to be artistic with the machine.
Well, and I think when you built this, and you can't see this by looking at the outside, but on the inside, I think you went above and beyond
I went crazy.
The construction of the way it's built, because you do understand how they work,
and
how to work on them, and what breaks and what doesn't break.
Right.
And
after 30 years, I have a really good understanding of what are the most common parts, the ones that go out the most, and what are the best ones out there. And have integrity. Stay with not American. I'm not using American switches. I'm not using the American part of our machine is the frame and the body, the sheet metal, and then of course the wiring harness. We use American wire, but the rest of it's Italian. I felt it was important to stay true to the Italians. I'm not going to remanufacture parts that the Italians have perfected. I mean, they really have perfected these machines 100 years ago. So why reinvent the wheel there? This is not a Kickstarter project. I'm not trying to make a better lever machine. I'm trying to make the best lever machine. So that's a different mindset.
So then if you know that the inside is amazing and completely planned out to every specific detail that's important to make it efficient
Right.
and to make it last longer, then you put that together with the outside aesthetic, which is kind of something that we designed together.
Well, you had a huge part of this. I mean, that's because you're the artist. You're more of an artist than I am, and I think that the art or the styling had to match the interior. Like it had to be just so the service tech is just as excited about the inside. The person that owns it, it's on their counter. You have to create an experience. I think that that's what cafes are missing. Is if you have a stainless steel box, how boring is that? That's a refrigerator. You may as well have a refrigerator. And in some machines have even removed the machine out of the equation and put a little head sticking at your counter, which has no experience, which is, some people love that. That's great. I won't disagree with that. We just felt like it needed to be a monument, on the counter. And I mean, you thought long and hard on what the aesthetic.
Well, when I look at it, I feel like it's almost a piece of furniture, or
Exactly.
It's something that would match the way your bar looked, or the way your furniture in your bar or your cafe looked.
Right.
And I think that that's the thinking behind it.
Yep.